gente! Hola, mi gente. So, is it possible in Africa, in Cameroon, to be precise, to sell peanuts and to become a billionaire? Is that possible? Is that a story that is too good to be true? Is that a story that when you hear, you go, nah, that's not possible? Is that a story that makes you laugh and that you say, it's a scam? It's a typical African scam. It's a fairy tale. It's something that can't happen. Well, mi gente, it's a true story. It is my dad's story. It is Fotso Victor's story. And when people tell it, especially in his own village, especially in his own country, Cameroon, people laugh at it. People make fun of it. People, when they comment, on videos that I make in English or in French, they laugh at it. They say, oh yeah, your dad sold peanuts. Your dad sold matches to become a billionaire. To basically say he was a crook. This is a scam. No, he never really made his own money. That's something that is typical with African success stories. We have this unbelievable story, rags to riches story. A man born around 1926 in a village in Cameroon, in Western Cameroon, who can't read, who can't write, but who becomes one of the wealthiest men in Cameroon and in Africa. And people from his village, his country, can't believe it. They believe that there's no way that's possible because he can't speak French very well. He makes mistakes when he speaks French. To them, it sounds too good to be true. Even though everything is there. He has, companies. He has wealth. But people are like, nah, that's not possible. Even though he starts becoming wealthy during colonial times. My dad goes to Balmayo, which is in the center region of Cameroon, where there's a lot of Greeks there. There's a lot of, um, Westerners who come to Cameroon, to Africa to make money or in Balmayo. Most of them, many of them are there. And he starts at the bottom because there's no other places for him to start. He can't go to school. Um, he's the firstborn of his mother, and his mother is one of the wives of his dad. And he's the firstborn, so he has to help his mother. He can't go to school, and his dad anyway doesn't believe in the white man's school. He feels that if he goes to school, he's only going to learn to become technocrat, fonctionnaire, like they would say in French. So no, he has no other choice but to go to Balmayo instead of Douala. Douala, the two biggest cities in Cameroon, even at that time, were Yaoundé, the capital, and Douala, the economic capital. But he can't go to any of those two places. He has to go to Balmayo. So he goes there and he starts at the bottom. Yes, he starts by selling peanuts, but he is a very, very smart man. He's a very, very smart young man. He gets to know all the local businessmen. He gets to know all the local Greeks folks. And he gets lucky. He meets Pierre Castel. He meets Pierre Castel, who's in Cameroon to sell wine. Pierre Castel is one of the wealthiest Frenchmen, and he has all types of, he's a great wine seller. He has all types of he's a beer maker in all around the continent. So my dad meets Pierre Castel in around 1955, 1959, around that time, and that's the way he starts. He gets lucky. So my dad is around those type of people, and he gets to learn how to do business. At that time, there are opportunities in Africa because he doesn't know how to read or to write. He learns to read people very, very well. He's very, very good with people. He's a great actor. And what he realized is that people, because he doesn't know how to read French, because he doesn't know how to write French, because he doesn't speak French very well. People make assumptions about him. People who go into business with him always make the assumption that they are better than him. Underestimated. He's going to be underestimated throughout his life, even by his own kids. People always believe that, there's no way he doesn't even know, who's this guy? He doesn't, who's this African guy? He can't read, he can't write, so there's no way he can be smart. So that's one of the ways he gets to succeed. He always overperforms. He always exceeds expectations. With Pierre Castel was looking for a local person to sell wine because as a white man, it was very, very tough for him to sell to locals. And my dad volunteered and sold all of his wines. That's the type of relationship that he had, that he makes. That's how he becomes Fotso Victor. And he becomes Fotso Victor before the independence of Cameroon in 1960. The Cameroon becomes independent January 1st, 1960. And my dad is already a wealthy person in Bamayo. He's not yet an industrialist. He doesn't have companies, but he's very, very wealthy. But he doesn't have industries yet. That comes when he meets a Frenchman who is very, very, who has technological knowledge. So basically, that's the way he becomes rich. He gets lucky. He's very, very smart, street smarts, and he has no other choice at that time but to start at the bottom. But yet, this story, yes, which is once in a century story, is not it's just battered by people from his village, by people in Cameroon, by people in other African countries. My dad was so conscious of it that he had himself trouble telling it. He had himself trouble telling it. I love Messi. I'm a huge Barca fan, huge. But people know about Messi's story. People know about his illness. People know about how he gets to Barcelona. People know that he signs his first contract on a paper, on a napkin. People know that story, and people, when they hear that story, people love that story. With my dad, with a story that is as extraordinary as Lionel Messi's, even more, their first instinct is just to prove it not to be true and to basically demean my dad, to say that no, the state made him wealthy, even though what happened to his own son shows that there was something special there. And Miente, there's this overriding need to tear apart African billionaires, African wealthy people, to say that they are cheating or really front for somebody else. With my dad, it has been said a lot that he's a front for somebody else. What I always say is that fronts don't last this long. My dad was born around 1926. If he had been a scam, if he had been a crook, he would have not lasted this long, given the fact that he was able to get out of Cameroon and become a success story in other African countries, in France, Switzerland, in Asia. He was able to do that, Miente, without knowing how to read, how to write, and he didn't even speak French well. So, my question to you, if you don't know about Victor Fotso, is what is more likely? That somebody like that was a crook and that throughout his life, even though he had setbacks, even though he had spectacular failures, that he was a crook, or that he was really an African success story. And if you are unable to believe that somebody can be a genius, can come from nothing, can come from a small village in Western Africa, in Western Cameroon, and become a billionaire, why? Why can't fairy tales happen in Cameroon, in Africa? Why this need to find some faults with my dad? Why the need to always talk about his wives, the kid that he had, the son that he had who went to jail because he was trying to basically steal all his money because he was encouraged to do so by the state, by some people from the state, public figures who thought that my dad, that there was no way this was true, and that even if that he didn't deserve to be this wealthy. And the reason why I keep telling this story, why this story matters, I say Fotso matters, it's because I don't think that Africa is just a land where everything goes, where there's no greatness, and when only evil people, scammers, people with no morality at all succeed. Is such a thing as African rags to riches stories. And I think that when those stories happen, you can't expect the African billionaire to be perfect. When no billionaire in the world, not even in America, not even in the Western world, is perfect. They all have faults. They all have to make deals with the state, with politicians, so that they're left alone. They all try at some point to pay less taxes. Messi got in trouble in Spain because of taxes. But with my dad, the reason why you haven't heard of him, why when you hear of him, you will hear of how many kids he had, how many wives he had, of the mess that he left, quote unquote. It's because people always doubted his legitimacy as a billionaire. People don't want to believe it because then, if they do, they realize how unfair what happened to him, what is happening to his name is. If you realize, if you are able to even imagine what it took to become Fotso Victor, Victor Fotso, you don't have to like him. But I think that you have to respect what he did. That doesn't mean thinking he's a saint. He doesn't have to be a saint. He doesn't have to be perfect. But if you believe that story, if you believe that an African person, an African man in this instance, can start from nothing during colonial time, can sell peanuts to become a billionaire, then you have to care about the story, about why he dies alone in the American hospital of Paris, and why so many people felt that they could rob him, not only in Switzerland, not only in France, not only in other African countries, but in Cameroon. When I tell this story, people are like, oh yeah, but whatever. Because complexity, greatness, anything that changed the narrative of the African person as some type of imperfect, lazy, scamming, disorganized person, it's difficult to get through the noise. It's difficult. Imagine that. Put yourself, try. Wherever you are able to do something unbelievable. And yet people are like, no, I don't care. He's dead. He cheated. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why does Futso matter? Because it is about Africa, about African success, African excellence, African greatness, and about the refusal to believe that it doesn't matter, that we can just have amnesia, and that you can just continue and say the past doesn't matter, our own history doesn't matter. For me, yes, it's personal, but if it were just personal, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I would just keep on writing books, letters, and trying to fight the good fight on my own. But this is a public African international story. At some point, my dad had over 25 companies all over the world. So what happened to his empire, his group, which was one of the biggest in Western Africa, Central Africa, shows how easily it is for African to just break, destroy African greatness, and how easy it is to just break it, and to blame the victim, and to blame my dad, to blame the guy who sold peanuts to become a billionaire by basically saying he lied. He was a cheat. Even if he made it, he didn't do what he needed to do not to become a victim. Can you imagine that? There was, in short, no way for my dad to win. He does the impossible. He becomes Fotso Victor. He becomes Victor Fotso. He becomes wealthy. And yet at the end, even his own people are like, nah, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? And I'm saying that this is only possible in Africa, where people can allow African greatness, success, to be made smaller, by fluff, Fotso Victor sold peanuts, matches, all type of small stuff to become a billionaire. He became a billionaire. Yet for Africa, he was too big not to fall. And Miante, as his daughter, I have two choices. Either I go with you guys and say, well, okay, what can I do? He lived. Let me get some money and live my life. Or I just say no. When you are as privileged, as lucky to have a dad like Fotso Victor Fotso, you fight the amnesia. You refuse the delegitimation of your dad's story. And you fight for his honor and for his memory. That's what I'm doing, Miante. That's why I will keep on talking to you about my dad while talking to you about other stuff, making connections, and making sure that you get the story and what happened to him. Let me know, Miante, what you thought of this episode, and you can write to me at contact@fotso.org. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. See you Tuesday for another podcast in English, or tomorrow for a podcast en français.